Hey everyone, I'm back, and today we're going to be talking about Oculus. And this movie came out in 2013, directed by Mike Flanagan. And I've heard about this movie. I've never actually watched it, and I was curious about it. And as far as the director Mike Flanagan goes, I don't really like any of his movies. Like, there are some films that he's made that I think are okay, like Doctor Sleep. I think that movie's okay. Like Gerald's Game is fine. Ouija Origin of Evil is fine, and Hush I don't really like. There's something there at least, and his movies usually look nice. That's one of the best parts about his movies, is that they're pretty well shot, and there are some shots in his movies that are like very memorable. And it's like, oh, that's a bit interesting to look at. It's like someone trying to do something a bit different. And that rings true for this movie as well. It's well shot. There are shots that I can remember, and it was visually interesting to look at times. And the blood looks like blood, and it's like technically well made in some regards. And there are some things to appreciate about it. I think it looks better than a $5 million budget movie, because that's what this movie is. The budget for this movie is $5 million, and I think it looks a bit better than that. Like, they do a pretty good job with that money, and that's about it for positives. I really did not enjoy this movie. I found it to be painfully boring, stupid, kind of insulting, and just not scary. There were some jump scares in this movie, which were kind of annoying, but luckily the movie doesn't over-rely on them, thankfully. And I thought there were only a couple of jump scares in the movie, but then I looked up and apparently there's like 14 of them. I was like, wow, there's that many? I don't even remember them. And I was kind of struggling to sit through this movie because there was nothing that I attached onto. Like, I didn't like any of the characters. That's a big problem for me. And once we got into the first 25 minutes, like once we got into that part of the movie, that's why I was starting to kind of enjoy the movie. It was like, okay, I see what we're kind of getting into now, and exploring like the history of this mirror, and that was kind of interesting, and that was like the best stuff in the movie, and the rest of the movie was not that, and it was just really, really boring, and I didn't find anything scary about this movie. I hated the story of this movie and how it was told. And just like The Haunting of Hill House, or at least what I've seen from it, I've seen the first 3 episodes and then just gave up. It kind of cuts back and forth between the present and the past, because basically what's happening in the present is also connected to the past, and basically the same things are happening, except instead of with a family of 4, it's just these 2 siblings, and that's basically the only difference here. Everything else is basically the same. And as the story continues, it slowly shows you what has happened in the past. And none of that stuff was interesting. And I also found it to be incredibly unnecessary. Like, it doesn't need to be in the movie at all. And it's just wasting time. And the characters are all incredibly stupid, and just make classic horror movie stupid decisions that make me roll my eyes. And the music in the movie, I was liking it for a little bit. It was like nice and quiet, ambiance, or whatever the word is. Like, it was kind of subtle, and it was like, as it was continuing to be played, it was kind of getting like, had like a heartbeat added to it. I was like, okay, this is a bit different, and I was liking it. However, where I take issue with it is that as the movie goes on, it just spams it and just doesn't stop. And by the end of the film, I hated the music, and I just couldn't stand it. There was nothing about this movie that I found to be satisfying. Anything that it tried to do in terms of like taking risks, I found to be completely unearned, especially in the 3rd act. It was completely unearned, in my opinion, without spoiling anything. And I think the biggest problem I have with this movie is the script. It's just horribly written, and I just can't get behind anything. And I just wish the director, Mike Flanagan, was attached to something that was actually well written in my eyes. And like, I would love to see like some of these visuals brought to a project that like I actually cared about the characters and what was going on. But it's really just the scripts that are just not that good. I think that's my biggest problem with all of his movies, is that they're just not very well written. Because I feel as though if he was not attached to this movie would just be one of the worst movies of the year, or at least that came out the year that it did. And it would just be any random horrible horror movie that you could find on any streaming platform. But because he's attached to it, his movies do look nice, and that's really all they have going for them. They look nice. That's about it. There were points in this movie where it reminded me of Evil Dead, and I was just wishing that I was watching something as good as The Evil Dead, or like the sequels to Evil Dead, like Evil Dead 2 or Army of Darkness. And as far as like movies I would want to watch around October and Halloween time, there's a lot better ones to choose from, and ones that I will be rushing back to seeing again. And this is not one of them. This is one of those that I will be running away from. And yeah, I just didn't enjoy the movie. And I didn't like how it treated its audience. It kind of treated its audience as if they were stupid, because literally, like, the first scene that we get with our two main characters, they have 2 lines over the course of like 5 minutes, or maybe it was the same scene where they remind the audience that they're siblings. And there wasn't any subtlety to the film. Like, you couldn't interpret things in any specific way. It's like one way or nothing's going to make sense. So in the end, Oculus was boring, infuriating, and just had nothing for me, and I will never be watching this movie again. And with all that being said, I'm going to give Oculus a 2 out of 10. Thank you for watching my videos as always. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to leave a like and comment down below you thought of Oculus, and my social media links, they will all be in the description, so follow me there. And last but not least, subscribe to be a part of Foley Nation, and I'll see you when I get my next review up, and that is going to be for Face Off. So look forward to that, but until I get that up, thank you for watching and have a great day.